Peace and welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Folks, we got a lot to talk about. First and foremost, let's talk about should racist and hate speech disqualify you from public service? Looking at this rash of leaked audio from officials in cities and states across the country, there aren't a lot of laws against this type of speech as on the books right now, but should there be? We'll have that conversation. Also, we're going to talk about the recovery of the young 16-year-old boy, Ralph Yarl, who was shot in the face and shot in the head by a white neighbor for ringing at his doorbell, at the wrong doorbell. And we'll talk about what's been happening and some of the big developments in that story. Also, we're going to talk a little bit about the lawsuit against Freaknik documentary. Wow, that's crazy. And sports with my guy Scotty of Off Script TV. Going to talk a little bit about the lessons of betting on yourself, folks. So, well, we got a lot of big discussions and we want you to join us. So make sure you do so and stay with us as we jump into it. It's the culture here on the Black Star Network. All right, folks, welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. Happy Wednesday. I'm your host, Farajii. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Big shout out to my online culture crew. What's up, crew? What's up? Good to have y'all join us this afternoon. Folks, we got a lot to talk about, so let's jump right in it. And I'm so happy because it's Wednesday, and I got my sister, Suzette Speaks, who is a TV and digital platform host. He's also an attorney out of the great state of Florida.
Why you clowning us? Everybody in Florida is not the same, guys, okay? But good to be here. Happy Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday. All right, first, we got a lot of big conversations set up, folks, and we want y'all to join us in the discussion. Make sure you post your comments in the YouTube chat. Make sure that you post it on Facebook as we're streaming live on those platforms, as well as blackstarnetwork.com and on Amazon News as well on Roku TV. All right, Suzette, let's start with this very, very, very interesting and disturbing trend that I'm seeing happening across the country as we're hearing more leaked audio. And this story and these stories are, just an intersection of a lot of things from, illegally or legally, taping someone while they're having a conversation to, the fact that a lot of this conversation contains hate speech or any type of racist rhetoric, and looking at how the law is going to accommodate or how the law would handle all of these situations. And this is coming because of the latest leaked audio. We talked about it yesterday on the show where we talked about the leaked audio from Tennessee where those GOP officials were complaining about being called racist, conspiring against those two black lawmakers down there. But then we also saw the situation in Oklahoma that just came up, and where the governor of Oklahoma has been calling for the resignation of the sheriff and other top officials in a rural county there in Oklahoma because they were caught on tape recorder as saying some hateful things about black people being not being able to institute lynching in the state anymore, and even talked about killing a reporter and their father. A son and father who had been reporting on corruption and greed and other issues in the state and how they can knock them off, put them into a ground. Like, what the hell is going on? So I want to share this first, and then, Suzette, if you can share with us your insight about this, because I don't see that a lot of these cities, a lot of these states, they don't have laws against this type of speech that will disqualify a person from public office. But let me share with you the latest out of Oklahoma. Take a look at this here, folks. This is because of what the governor has said in Oklahoma, and he has called for the resignation of the sheriff and top officials in the county that were recorded talking about beating, killing, and burying a father-son team of local reporters and lamenting that they could no longer hang black people with a damned rope. Governor Kevin Stitt called for McCurtain County Sheriff Kevin Clardy, County Commissioner Mark Jennings, Sheriff's Investigator Alicia Manning, and Jail Administrator Larry Hendricks to step down after the McCurtain County Gazette News published an article over the weekend about what was captured on the recording. The governor said, quote, "I am both appalled and disheartened to hear of the horrid comments made by officials in McCurtain County." He said there's simply no place for such hateful rhetoric in the state of Oklahoma, especially by those that serve to represent the community through their respective office. So this is a Republican governor who is looking to penalize other Republican officials. But my problem is, and this is something that came up, they started an investigation there in Oklahoma, Suzette, and the sheriff's department determined that the recording was done illegally, right? And so this opens the door for any type of prosecution against these individuals not happening. And so I'm looking and I'm wondering, thinking to myself, if we've seen this in Oklahoma, we've seen this in Tennessee, here in Los Angeles, some Latino council members were saying some disparaging or racist things as well on tape. But there aren't any laws to remove them. All we can do is call for their resignation, but there aren't any laws to really take this speech and say, you know what, this automatically disqualifies you from public service. Do we need to go in that direction at this point?
Well, Farajii, this type of example yet again shows us that, we unfortunately in our country are fighting a very live and real battle against bigotry and racism. Good afternoon, everyone. It's good to be here. And again, this is a topic that we have delved into because other public officials in other states have had this happen to them, which is to be caught on a hot mic or a secret recording saying something that was very, on the lighter side, distasteful, but on the real side, quite racist. And yet again, we have this small town about 200 miles southeast of Oklahoma City where officials were secretly recorded. And I think there might be another means of bringing them to account, which might be that they were possibly seen as meeting outside of their public meeting. If their laws are similar to those of Florida, we have statutes that require public officials to give notice if they're going to meet together, and that there must be a record kept, et cetera, et cetera. And they're not supposed to be discussing public business outside of public meetings. So there may be some way that the district attorney of this local jurisdiction might be able to find some means of holding them to account. But ultimately, it will fall back to the voters because, as you said, in Oklahoma, as in many states, there are recording laws against recording people without their permission or, having some kind of type of secret recording device. And in this case, it looks like some would seem as if there is a big, unfortunately, loophole which will prevent this type of recording to be used against them in a way that could be, prosecuted with what exactly they said. But it's just bad policy, people staying off, and bigotry for an entire group of people. If you were a public servant, you are clearly supposed to be serving all the people, not just some of the people. And if you have racist attitudes and you clearly demonstrate them behind closed doors, and unfortunately you're found out in this type of way, it needs to be, or maybe I should say fortunately found out in this type of way, I think the governor is right. They should resign and the voters should demand it. There should be protests in the streets. There should be people signing petitions to remove these individuals because clearly they are not focused on the public good, nor do they see themselves as representing everyone equally.
I think so. I'm right there with you, Suzette. And I think this is a problem because if you really think this way, and I'm assuming that since you're standing behind closed doors without without cameras, without the PR, this is how you really think. So it's hard for me to be like, oh no, they're just talking. No, this is behind closed doors. This is how you really think. This is your attitude. This is your view of people in the world. It's automatically, as soon as the public know that this is how you actually think, you should automatically be disqualified. There shouldn't be this call for resignation. And I'm seeing this in LA, and I'm seeing it across the country. It's like a call for resignation. You're talking about a person, you want a person to willingly give up a seat of power and influence because they got caught in being who they are. That's not happening. That is just not happening, Suzette. That's not happening at all. And I think that the law should change. I think that, as much as we talk about the freedom of speech, which is a very, very important one, probably one of the most important constitutional ideas that we have on the books, this type of thing, it goes against the idea of having a representative for the people. You should not be represented, if you are anywhere, you should not be represented by a person that hates you. That just doesn't make sense.
I'm drawn to some of the historical context of, the United States having literally segregationists that were serving in the U.S. Congress openly, right. And that was their political position. So there will be those who argue that, people should be allowed to serve regardless of their so-called politics and actual bigotry, and that the voters are the ultimate deciders of who will stay and who will go. But in this modern era, we have had this kind of, outpouring where we're seeing it more often, that unfortunately we think, or at least it's being kind of presented to us in the media, that, we are post-racial, and clearly we're not. So maybe it is time that we develop some laws around behaviors and attitudes that modern times, I think, across the board. And again, there will be people who take exception to this, because there are people who want to, propose division and actually do harbor racist attitudes and want to still serve. And maybe there are people that will vote for them. But yeah, I do believe that and I'm also thinking as to whether there will be bodies that will institute these laws against themselves. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Right.
It would almost have to come from Congress, some sort of framework like the hate crime laws that add on to law to cases, possibly like the one we're going to discuss with Ralph Yarl. But yeah, it might be high time to actually consider this. But will we see self-regulation? I'm not sure.
Right. That's the big question. Will we see self-regulation, especially in a country where states carry a lot of power when it comes to these type of issues? Folks, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, I'm going to get to your comments. Chris Bigg, I see what you got to say. Very interesting comment. Sherilyn, I wanted to share what you got to say, and so many more. So stay with us. We're getting into it, folks, right here on The Culture, here on the Black Star Network.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
An angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol.
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear. Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to the show. We've been talking about leaked audio and, more importantly, talking about the use of racist and hate speech that we're finding that a lot of officials, state officials, are saying in these leaked audios from across the country, from whether you're talking about from California to Oklahoma to Tennessee and more places. More of political officials, more public servants are expressing their disdain, their hatred, and in some cases, like the one in Oklahoma, even going as far to talk about committing murder for individuals that they do not like. Should this level of speech disqualify you automatically, point blank, with no call for resignation? Should it automatically disqualify you from public service? I've been checking in with my sister Suzette Speaks, TV host and attorney, and I want to hear from you folks. So crew, y'all have been checking in, so many of you. And I'm glad to hear, glad to see some new faces and new voices on this situation. But let me go to Chris B. Chris, you started it off. I don't know, Chris, if you just like to say stuff to ruffle people's feathers. Suzette, I don't know if that's the way Chris likes to roll. But Chris said everyone is slightly racist and definitely prejudiced. Everyone. That doesn't mean they cannot lead effectively.
No. I think all of us do have our
we got biases.
Yeah, exactly. But to think one race is superior, depending on how he's defining racism, no, I don't agree with that.
Don't agree with it. And that does affect how you lead effectively. What? Chris, what? How do you lead people that you hate?
No.
Hey, y'all see the tumbleweed running across the screen? It's like crickets. How do you lead people that you hate? If you got a disdain for someone, they're part of your constituency. How can you think about their best interest and well-being? If you hate them, if you don't like them, if you can't stand them, how does that happen? How do you get past it? See, that's the problem in this country, Suzette. The problem is that we think we can just categorize, for lack of a better word. We could just chop it up like, no, my personal view of things, it can be put to the side when no, it doesn't. This is public service, folks. A lot of policies that we see coming into fruition, a lot of policies, whether you're talking about from the federal level all the way down to the local level, that is rooted in someone's attitudes. That comes from someone's beliefs on how they see the world.
And I would Go ahead. I was just going to say, in some of these smaller jurisdictions also, you have certain people that wield a lot of power. So as opposed to you see big cities where you would get a public outcry, where you see people, writing on social media and in newspapers, etc., and putting public pressure on these individuals. Sometimes in these smaller jurisdictions, you see there are and they are friends when it comes to the different parts of government, and they work together. We've seen it in cases that came out of Atlanta and the shooting of Ahmaud Arbery. We've seen it just recently, the Murdoch family and that terrible case that came forward, and how much power one family kind of exercised over this very small community, being in law enforcement, being attorneys, and being, very respected in a very small community. So you can have, pockets of our people that justice straight, they still demonstrate questionable beliefs.
Right. And you're absolutely right about that. Let me go back to the crew because folks are checking in. Charlene, you said, I know that there are people that may disagree and say the First Amendment covers what they say. Please feel free to say whatever you want. just know that there's consequences. Is that a great? I feel like I agree with Charlene on this one, Suzette. I feel like that's the best view and approach to take with the First Amendment. What do you say about that, especially as a lawyer?
Yeah, I would say, as first of all, answer this as a voter, I would want to know how you truly feel. I want you to speak up about your beliefs, because what's very difficult is to kind of regulate closet racists and people who have these beliefs and ideals and carry this ideology quietly while purporting in the public sphere to be equal and want justice for all, where they're secretly, if you were looking at this Oklahoma case here, they were, I would say, considering conspiracy even when they were talking about wishing they could hang these reporters. And I have a excavator, said one public official, and I know where there are 2 deep holes, said another of these 4 public officials. And it was really scary talk. But again, they didn't know they were being recorded. So I'm like, is this the norm? And I think it should be very eye-opening to every voter, so that we are understanding, again, what we sometimes get in the public space is not really who these folks are. And when they are showing us their true selves, they need to be called out, held to account, and voted out, if not removed, if they've broken any laws in their jurisdictions.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Pauline, you checked in and said, Pauline Hurt, you said, there's always laws set up to protect these races by not being able to record them without their knowledge. These people are talking about killing people. We need to know who they are. Yeah, I mean, and again, like, the way that this particular recording was done, the reporter in Oklahoma kind of left his recording device there, and because he was investigating corruption and other misuses of state resources from state leaders. So he recorded them. That's why he did it. He recorded them. That's why they're talking about the father, the son, and other folks that are part of this newspaper, the local newspaper there in Oklahoma, to do harm to their family and essentially conspiring to kill them. One went even as far as to say, this is a public official, say, look, I know a guy in the mafia out of Louisiana. He can knock them off. And then another guy said, hey, I know a couple of places that you can dump the bodies.
Yeah. And that his pawpaw would have whipped him good.
He was
not the pawpaw, not to whip him good. Like, what are we doing here? This goes to fitness, to serve. Like, this type of mentality is sickening. And so when they thought they weren't, in the public eye, and they were carrying on this back and forth, it's disgusting. And part of me is happy that it was recorded, even though I know, again, it's inadmissible because it was most likely illegally recorded without their knowledge. Right. But I think as a reporter, I don't know, we also have a code of ethics in journalism and how you obtain information to kind of wear the other side a hat for a little bit. So he has to be very careful. He said that he was being threatened and he felt like his life was threatened. He and his son had purchased or basically run this local print newspaper. It's not available online because I was looking for it. But for more than 40 years, the paper was started in 1905, and they do, investigative journalism and figuring out what's really going on in their downtown, and people didn't like it. So just to kind of hear what really goes on, it is really eye-opening, Farajii.
And then look, official Sanika, you checked in and said, look, if there aren't any laws to remove them, the public should definitely shame them and vote them out. They have to make examples of these racist people. I understand, and I would wholeheartedly agree. But unfortunately, we're also living in a time, Suzette and official Sanika, where voter values, people don't care how racist you are, i.e. Trump. People don't care. You have, even outside of the Trump situation, there were races in the 2020 election where one guy, I remember reading about one guy who killed his wife. He was a suspect in the murder of his wife. And he was running for public office. Like, how do you know this information? Like, how do you go to the ballot box knowing, you know what? This person could possibly be a murderer. You know what? This person is a racist. But you know what? Their economics they got a great economic plan. Like, what? You can't
the bar is so low.
Character, man.
The bar is too low for our
too low. Too low. The vote, and see, here's why the bar is too low. and people say, well, vote them out. Well, who voted them in?
Exactly. I didn't get a chance to look at the demographics of this particular area because I wanted to see how many Black folks live here, how many people, like if I had more time to research, because I was wondering if they would stand a chance at keeping their seats. That is really scary because it's a quite a prospect if the demographics lend to it.
Right. And we already talked about this, is that nearly 60% of Black people in this country live in Confederate states. The original 13 states. This is based on Pew Research. 56% of Black people in this country, folks, we live in states that hate us.
Strong, but not.
So if we talking about allowing these people in, we got to go back to where are our values. This is the thing that has got, and I said this before, but this is the thing that's on voter that should be on the ballot. Where are our values? If you cannot chop somebody's personality up and say you're good with this, but even though you might have a problem with women, you might have a problem with LGBTQ, you got a problem with Black people, I still like you. You're still going to be the best person. And I even have some Black folks who will take a Republican in part. Or they would take a lawmaker. It could be a Democrat. I don't care. It could just take some person in part and say, well, they are the ones that's going to get us through. This is absolutely insane, folks. I mean, I got to say this. This is absolutely insane. There's no way in the world that you can vote in a racist and expect a racist to think about your best interest. And as a Black person, Latino person, Asian American, that is absolutely insane.
Well, I will just caveat that to what I believe is there are people within these states that have ideology that is not friendly and downright bigoted towards minorities. Not every state, not every leader within these states, I think, are standing, on the wrong side of history. There are people that are progressive. There are people that do think, that all humankind deserves the same treatment under the law. But we do have remnants of people that want to take things backwards and have there be kind of like a multi-class tiers under the law. And that's not what this Constitution provides. I would also say this pretty much started was highly amplified after the election of Donald Trump, because that's what people did when they held their nose and voted for someone who had been so problematic in so many other areas of business, of how he treated women, et cetera. And not to rehash all of that.
Of life.
But they held their nose and they voted for him. And so there was the prime example of, well, we don't really like the person, but he's going to get us the policy changes that we want and that we need. So we're going to continue to vote for someone who has questionable, character flaws, right? And ideologies and other, behavioral issues of the past. We're going to look past that because we need this person to win because he's popular so that we can get our agenda through. I think that was the biggest example of this type of attempt to parse a politician. Oh, we'll take the good and the bad because we want the good. And again, I think it costs us too much in society in the long run. And we're seeing that played from that national scene down to the levels of government.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Folks, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's switch gears. Talking about racism, let's talk about the recovery of 16-year-old Ralph Yarl. This is the little Black boy who was shot in the head because he knocked on his neighbor's house mistakenly. We'll share with you some of the latest developments, what President Biden had to say, and more importantly, talk about the stand your ground laws that may get this 84-year-old from not doing any prison time. So we'll talk about that. Stay with us. Join us in the conversation. You're tuned into The Culture right here on the Black Star Network.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now We have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is roland@rolandsmartin.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. We've been checking in with my sister, Suzette Speaks. But now we want to switch gears and talk a little bit about the recovery of 16-year-old Ralph Yarl. And if you know that Ralph Yarl is the 16-year-old who was shot in the head when he knocked on the door of a neighbor by mistake looking for his twin brother. The neighbor, Andrew Lester, 84 years old, he was charged over the shooting. I want Keenan, let's just show a picture of Mr. Lester here, because I think that it speaks volumes about this case is so disturbing and so heartbreaking, and it's only by the grace of God that 16-year-old Ralph Yarl was able to survive this attack on him. He is in the hospital. He is making a recovery. He's making a slow recovery. According to hospital officials and family members, he has been working on everything from speech to walking. And so this case is such a disturbing case. The only thing that they have charged Mr. Andrew Lester with is assault in the first degree and armed criminal action. There he is. Just because a young black boy knocked on your door and you felt, quote unquote, threatened, that you felt like you had to shoot him in the head. Now, the other thing about this is that according to the prosecutors, they have said that Ralph did not cross the threshold of Mr. Lester's home to compel him to take this action. I want to bring my sister Suzette Speaks, TV host, attorney, back into the discussion. It's hard to talk about this case, Suzette.
This one is a rough one, Farajii.
It's really hard to talk about this. This was only a week ago that this case happened. National attention. There have been so much outpouring of love and support for little brother Ralph. But it's very hard to talk about this situation. It's even harder to see how the police have handled this situation in Kansas City. I was reading the report, and he a couple of things. He denied shooting the boy in the head and the arm, telling authorities he believed he was protecting himself from a confrontation. That's the other thing.
Sir. No.
The prosecutor said that they believe there was a racial component to the shooting. But Mr. Lester has not been charged with a hate crime, and charging documents do not describe any alleged racial bias.
The fact that they keep bringing that up it is so curious because I was watching interviews on Joanne Reed and other platforms to try to see if they have given the attorneys, Lee Merritt or Mr. Van Crump, any more information about what they mean about there's a racial component. But that is yet to be seen. But based on just the facts of what we've seen here, there are people who are going to question, what this gentleman, Mr. Andrew Lester, was thinking when he came to his door. It was later at night. He saw a tall figure. He's quite tall. Ralph Yarl is a 16-year-old band student, star musician at his high school. And he decided after the young man rang the doorbell to get his gun and to, through a glass door, shoot him and then shoot him again. Now, there is I wouldn't say dispute, but there are two versions of the facts that Mr. Lester told the police that the student, Mr. Yarl, touched the door handle and was trying to come in. Now, from his hospital bed, Ralph Yarl said, "I didn't touch the door. I rang the doorbell." There were no words exchanged between the two, and then he was shot. So when we look at the possible defenses that Mr. Lester will raise, the facts as they're being presented again, the versions that are coming from Mr. Lester saying that he was in fear of his life is going to be what is in question when we talk about this castle doctrine, or whether I do believe Missouri has a stand your ground law. I'm again licensed in Florida, so I'm more familiar with the Florida stand your ground law, etc. But again, we were talking about a body of law, castle doctrine, which says that you have the right to protect your home. Your home is your castle. And when you have the stand your ground component on top of that, it gets a little bit more complicated because there are a couple of components. Whether there was a trespass, did someone come on your property without being invited, right, illegally?
Right.
And then was there an actual element of fear? And that is the subjective part, because he says he was in fear of his life. But based on the facts, is it reasonable to believe him is where the question will lie.
So, I mean, and I think that's the other part about it. The thing that disturbs me the most is, well, there are two things. One is I don't know how they can deny that there is not a racial component in this, right? Like, you really should check it out. But then two, the stand your ground piece, because this is a very controversial law. It started, of course, in Florida, and it kind of spread out all to other states across the country. So let me just share with folks. Let me just share with y'all really quickly, folks, around what this stand your ground law being enacted at a state level, and it allows these individuals, any individual, to protect themselves with the use of reasonable force, including deadly force, to prevent death or great bodily harm. Right? As it states, as of right now, there are 28 states that have the stand your ground law on the books. Alabama, Alaska, Arizona, Arkansas, Florida, Georgia, Idaho, Indiana, Iowa, Kansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, Michigan, Mississippi, Missouri, Montana, Nevada, New Hampshire, North Carolina, North Dakota, Ohio, Oklahoma, Pennsylvania, South Carolina, South Dakota, Tennessee, Texas, Utah, and West Virginia, Wyoming. 28 states that have this law on the books. And there's a component of this law, as you know, Suzette, and I'm just sharing this for those who don't know, where the duty to retreat or an obligation to step back and avoid confrontation where possible is removed under most stand your ground laws, and it's dubbed shoot first laws by critics.
Yes. So we saw this again first in the common law, which was brought to this country from England, which common law means basically judge-made law, and from the custom, right? So there was an understanding, again, your home is your castle, and you have the permission to not invite anyone who you do not want to be there. And you have also the ability to protect that castle. So as it came over here to the United States, we've added this component, like you said, in the statutes. Now we move from the common law to adding this stand your ground. Some people call it, there was first the Make My Day law, meaning that, again, if you were in fear of your life and there was a trespassing that took place on your property, you could use lethal force. It was justifiable depending on the facts, depending on the circumstances, right? Now, as you have pointed out with the stand your ground, before in the common law, when you had castle doctrine, you had a duty to retreat. When the imminent threat went away, you no longer could use lethal force because, again, the threat now has ended, and then the person whose home or castle it was then had to stop because no longer were you in fear. Stand your ground laws, for the most part, now, as you've mentioned, remove the duty to retreat. So you can still use lethal force under certain circumstances to protect yourself or others, right? It would be justifiable in certain cases. So what we're probably going to hear Mr. Lester argue is that he was indeed in fear, as he put it, because remember, initially he was questioned and let go. Thank goodness for the protesters. Thank goodness for social media, for people calling the office of the state attorney or the prosecutor saying, hold up, why is he not in custody? So they revisited what happened. And again, based on what Mr. Lester says, he thinks he was in fear of his life. Well, I ask you, why the second shot? Since there was no duty to retreat, after the boy is laying on the ground, after you shot through your glass door the first time, hitting him in the head, what was the second shot? Were you still in fear of your life when you were standing over him and shot in his arm? So that, I think, is where we're seeing these now charges levied, because again, you do not have a duty to retreat, but was there actual a fear, and actually was there trespass? Is really, I want to go back to the first element. Did he cross over the threshold? Did he try to touch the doorknob? According to Ralph Yarl, he said he didn't touch the door. But of course, the story changes. Mr. Lester's version says
I can't
he tried to touch the door. So yeah, there are parts of this that again, based on the facts now, the prosecutors have said they can charge them with the two charges that you mentioned.
It would be interesting, as we got to take another pause, but it would be interesting to see how many black people have used stand your ground law and walked away from the shooting of a person.
Yeah,
because every time I heard about this law, it applies to white people. And this ain't racism, folks. This is just, let's just put it where the goats can get it. When we hear about stand your ground, it's about white person shooting, killing, harming a black person. How many black people have been able to use this law in their defense of shooting somebody else?
I know it has happened, but I don't know in what, frequency. You're right. And how often it happens.
Right. McCole, you said, it seems to me like this stand your ground law only applies to certain people. I'm just saying, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Look, I got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, more of your comments, crew. I want to hear what you're saying about this as we're talking about the recovery of little brother Ralph Yarl. A lot of money has been raised. I'll even share with you what the president had to say and so much more. So stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches. I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Hey, Black, I love y'all. All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Pull up a chair. Take your seat. The Black Tape. With me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
We're all impacted by the culture, whether we know it or not. From politics to music and entertainment, it's a huge part of our lives, and we're going to talk about it every day right here on The Culture with me, Farajii Muhammad, only on the Black Star Network.
I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show, Get Wealthy, focuses on the things that your financial advisor and bank isn't telling you, but you absolutely need to know. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
All right, folks, welcome back to the show. We've been talking about the recovery of 16-year-old little brother Ralph Yarl, who is slowly and amazingly is making a recovery after being shot in the head by 84-year-old Andrew Lester, a neighbor of his in Kansas City, Missouri. This case has garnered national attention because of the elements from everything from race to gun violence, and just overall talking about we are at a point and at a place and culture in our country, folks, where as a simple thing of ringing the doorbell of your neighbor may get you killed. I want us to think about that part too. That if you go and just go to the wrong house, you may not be able to come back home over a simple interaction. Simple. Knock on the door and you just get killed. I want to bring my sister back. My sister Suzette Speaks. It reminds me of the situation of Botham Jean, in the sense that when that officer went into his apartment and shot him in his own apartment because she didn't know where the hell. It just reminds.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland@RolandSMartin.com. Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
All right, folks, welcome back to the show. Wanted to jump right back into the conversation as we talk about the recovery of Ralph Yarl. And Suzette, very quickly, I just wanted to bring up the point of what we saw with the Botham Jean case, where the police officer, the white police officer, went into the wrong apartment, shooting and killing Botham Jean. And it's like this idea, like, first you were in the wrong. You don't know what what your own place looks like. But more importantly, to automatically jump to that decision in a very, very quick period of time. You know, you come into somebody's house and then you don't know where you are, and then you just automatically, you don't address the person, you don't say who you are, you just pull out the gun and shoot them. Same thing. It's reminiscent. Of course, it's not the same circumstances, but it's reminiscent of the lack of judgment that we see a lot. You know, we're hearing more and more stories like this, and it's disturbing, to say the least, that folks are so quick to just go to a violent response to a situation without thinking, without asking questions. You just shoot first.
Mm-hmm. And people will ask if that person who lacks the judgment of seeing someone at their door, ringing a doorbell, and then wanting to shoot them directly through the door, deserves to have a firearm. I think people are making the assumption that there was some other motivation, which again would be a reasonable assumption in this case, because why would a reasonable person look at somebody through a glass door and shoot at them if they are not being attacked? If someone is not trying to intrude on their property, it's not okay. I think there's a public policy interest here too, because we cannot have, as a society, it be okay for people to shoot first at the ring of their doorbell. Like, this is something that is kind of larger in terms of our public policy. We just had something similar happen in New York, where
Right.
A young lady was turning into, now New York does not have stand your ground laws, but was turning into a wrong driveway with her friends, and when they were trying to turn back out, she was shot and later passed away. So, and she was white, right?
Right.
So this is dangerous for everyone in our society if we allow something like this to kind of like go unchallenged by the court system. So I'm very happy that the public outcry helped push this district attorney to do the right thing, which was to bring charges. And if it needs an element that has to do with, the racial component, such as a hate crime increase to the charge, we need to see it, because unfortunately
Absolutely.
people are going to say he's old, et cetera, et cetera. As it was pointed out by a couple commentators I was watching earlier, we have people well into their 80s serving all over Congress, all on in the Senate, all over the House of Representatives. So if we need to also look at the policy behind maybe continuous mental health checks past a certain age when it comes to gun ownership, et cetera, so people can understand whether or not that particular gun owner still has the aptitude to make decisions that are not going to hurt innocent people. Maybe that will drive some of the conversation around policy as well. But yeah, everything in this case, again, it just feels wrong that a 16-year-old can go to the wrong house and then end up shot in the head without having a conversation or exchanging of words. There are so many other alternatives Mr. Lester could have done, call the police, all kinds of things. But he chose to take the law into his own hands, and initially it didn't seem as if he was going to face any consequences. But we're glad now that he has been charged.
And that's the sad part. That's the other sad part, that you got to go back and like, okay, it should have been initially, we're going to handle this, versus after public pressure, okay, let's go back and charge him. You know what I'm saying? And not even charging him with like attempted murder. It's like an assault charge. Assault.
Well, you have to prove mental state. That's the real hard part.
The man was okay. Here's the thing. Okay, we saying you got to prove mental state. The man said he denied it, shooting the boy. Well, who shot him?
He was.
How do you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? If I was a detective, I would be like, what? How are you going to say I didn't shoot him? So he came up on your porch and just some mystery gun shot this boy in the head and in the arm.
And Ralph Yarl says while he was laying there, Mr. Lester said to him, "Don't come back around here." There are so many parts that lead to it being about something else, lead us to believe the facts seem to be painting that picture.
All right, very quickly, because we got to take our next pause. Laura, you checked in and said anyone that does any type of delivery person, your job is now considered as a dangerous job now. How are these companies going to deal with this issue?
Great point.
Excellent
People go to knock on people's door all the time.
All the time. Uber, DoorDash, UPS,
FedEx,
delivery mail person, Amazon.
Yeah, like I said,
I've had packages come to the door and I forgot that I even ordered something.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? And Amazon got a situation now where you can fast track your packages. Those packages can come early in the morning.
Yeah, or late at night.
Before dawn, very late at night.
Yep.
So now we're in a situation where you don't even have to ask questions. You can just shoot through the door. And it's absolutely, it's horrific that we've gotten to this point. But of course, it's hard for me to believe an 84-year-old white male who has said those things to little black boy that race is not a part of.
Mm-hmm.
That race was not a part of. You probably looked through the peephole and saw that little boy first, or heard his voice, and you just made an assumption, and you went and you proceeded to shoot him, and then you shoot him in the arm while he's laying on the ground.
That second shot, I think, is what does him in, because when the threat has subsided, if you're in fear, the second shot to me, it takes a different type of mental state.
Absolutely. Look, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, folks, let's switch gears and talk about sports. We're going to check in with my guy Scotty of All Scripts TV, and we're going to just have a discussion about the lessons of betting on yourself. Folks, stay with us. That conversation is up next and more right here on the Culture on the Black Star Network.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys. This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland@RolandSMartin.com.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
Don't you think it's time to get wealthy? I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show on the Black Star Network focuses on the things your financial advisor or bank isn't telling you. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
All right, folks, welcome back to the show. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad, and this is The Culture here on the Black Star Network. All right, let me just have this different conversation as we talk about sports, but it's also a conversation that I think can apply to life in general, as sports is always about life in some way, shape, or form. So in a few moments, we're going to be checking in with our sports contributor, Scotty from Off Script TV. Still got my sister, Suzette Speaks, as we talk about the lessons of betting on yourself. And this comes out of the big news coming from the NFL, where NFL quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles, Mr. Jalen Hurts, who was a part of the Super Bowl, who went to the Super Bowl this season, he has agreed to a new deal with the Eagles, becoming the highest paid player ever. His contract that was negotiated, a 5-year, $255 million contract extension. Look at the face of Jalen Hurts. Hey, Keenan, let's just blow that face. Of course, this was during the game, but I'm sure he was feeling the same way once he got the word that this deal was going to happen. $255 million. He has a contract averaging $51 million per year in new money, with $179.3 million guaranteed. And guess what, folks? He's only been a starter for 2 seasons. Wow. Now, here's the thing. I wanted to have this discussion with my brother, Scotty, my sister, Suzette, because there is this cultural mantra that we always been saying, oh, bet on yourself, bet on yourself. Just as much as this deal, which is a major moment in NFL history and sports for a black quarterback and for a black athlete to be at this level, this is also a cautionary tale on the other side with another quarterback by the name of Lamar Jackson of the Baltimore Ravens, and talking about the way he is going about, or the effort he's trying to make to show that he is worth $250 million guaranteed. this is also a tale about a woman. Some of you may not know who this woman is, but trust and believe she is a power broker in the NFL. Her name is Nicole Lynn, a black woman, a young black woman who is actually the agent that brokered the deal for Jalen Hurts. And more importantly, she's a young black woman who took a chance on herself to get Hurts as her client. I'm going to bring in my voices. Let's bring in Suzette. Let's bring in Scotty.
Scotty, what up?
Scotty!
I get so excited when Scotty's here. Yay.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
So this is like three people that took this whole idea of betting themselves into three different directions, Scotty and Suzette. You know, Jalen, he took it out on him. He bet on himself by being one of the most improved players over a period of 1 year, from being considered the 19th in terms of his skills and accomplishments to rising to number 4 in terms of his numbers and his stats and his abilities. You have Nicole Lynn, who is this young and emerging voice and power broker in NFL. Nobody knew who she was, but she was able to broker a major deal. And then you got Lamar Jackson, an accomplished, a decorated MVP quarterback who decided to go into his contract negotiations with no agent. I think he's getting some advice from his mom and probably some other family members.
Nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. So it's
not saying that. Hey, look, mom could be at the table.
His mama know.
But not at the table. Mom, you sit over there.
Lord.
Let's bring the agent and the lawyer right next to me.
Sure, I'll take my
But
mom.
He's struggling right now. And I said this on my social media, on my Facebook page. When I heard the Jalen Hurts deal was done, I knew it blew Lamar Jackson's ability to broker that type of deal for himself. It just totally, it did. Jalen Hurts hurt Lamar. All right, Scotty, I'm gonna start with you, and then Suzette, I want to get your take. What's your take of this, sir?
Okay.
This is a cautionary tale. When you bet on yourself, in Lamar's case, you can bet on yourself, but you trust and believe there's going to be some consequences if you don't bet on yourself the right way.
Hey, Kenny, do me a favor, keep it on the 3. Yeah. I like.
Yeah. Because he want to bring some smoke over here. I'm ready. Go ahead.
I want to see your face. First of all, let me talk to the community out there, right? I want to set the precedence. He's a Ravens fan. So
I am a Ravens fan.
He is speaking to you as a fan. Okay, I just want to make that. I want to be very clear. He's a little biased, right? Now, my thing is this: the issue, and I think this is deeper than just betting on yourself. The NFL has a great way to divide the players that the NBA does not have to deal with, because the NBA players know their leverage in the system, which NFL players do not. So you get a lot of the me situation, right? That's why when the Colin Kaepernick happened thing, a lot of people were surprised that some players jumped on, but a lot of people also understood that they weren't going to mess up their bag to take a knee. They just weren't going to do that, right?
Okay.
So in the sense of I'm happy for Jalen Hurts, but it needs to be a time in the NFL where these players, quarterbacks especially, are coming together to do it for each other and for the people coming behind them, right? The guy who started free agency in the NFL never got to experience it. So it's things like that he set the precedence. He was like, yo, this is messed up. We need a free agency system. He does it. He protests for it. They get it. A few years later, he never gets to be involved in it. But a lot of people don't want to put themselves on the line to not have their benefit in the front end and not really change the culture. And what Lamar and Deshaun Watson's deal is just crazy. But what they have done, they set a precedence of trying to say, like, listen, man, we don't have a long extenuated time in the NFL. We need to have guaranteed contracts. We need to focus on getting that.
Okay.
So my thing is this. Listen, Jalen Hurts is legit. Nicole Lynn is awesome. She's the first black woman to have a top 5 drafted NFL player. The guy from the Jets, he was a DN, D tackle. She got him. So she's been around it for a little bit. All I'm saying is the bigger picture is I don't have a problem with Lamar betting on himself, because him betting on himself is not just for him. It's for people behind him. You know?
Okay, let me ask you this question. When the Baltimore Ravens offered Lamar a $250 million deal, $175 million guaranteed back in September of 2022, why didn't he take it?
It all depends on if he wanted 200 fully guaranteed. If he wanted 200 million fully guaranteed, and that was where he was.
And Scotty, let me just throw this caveat out there, bro. There are some reports that said that he was going to get 200 million. I don't know if you saw that too. I've seen 175 on the low end, and I've seen 200 million on the high.
I've seen both. I saw Pat McAfee where they came out on his show and said that, listen, if he had 2 million guaranteed and he said nah, listen, you buy yourself one out, because I would have signed that contract so. I would have wrote it in pencil. I'm like, yo, just copy it.
I'm like, give me a Sharpie. I need something that's going to stick.
It's going to bleed.
Sharpie, bro.
You know, sign everything. I signed that thing so fast. But it just all depends on what Lamar Jackson is willing to stand on. And at the end of the day, if he dies on that hill for a fully guaranteed contract, that's just a hill he's ready to die on. And I think sometimes, you know, listen, let's be real. It's not like he's not going to get paid. So if he falls and the Ravens end up getting him for 160 fully guaranteed, and you'll say he lost, or I say you win. Anytime you get your whole contract fully guaranteed, it's a win.
I get that. But see, here's the thing, and Suzette, I want to get your take on this, because, you know, when you start taking those type of chances in life, right, as well as in sports, you taking those big chances. You don't know what the situation is, right? And this is why I'm advocating for good representation, good people around you to advise you. Someone could have said back in September of 2022, hey, Lamar, hey, considering you got an MVP behind you, yes, but you haven't won an AFC championship. You didn't make it to the Super Bowl, but this is a big investment. I would take this deal. Now it comes across as greed. Now it comes across like you don't know. Now look at this. We're in April of 2023. I'm sorry, say it again.
As a fan.
No, it's not as a fan. It's not as a fan. Look, now we're in April 2023, and now he's it looks crazy. Suzette, talk to me. What's your take on it?
Listen, I can't get in to the weeds because I'm a lightweight a bit when it comes to this. I want to ask more questions and probably I have answers to here. And Scotty, I'm hoping you can illuminate me on why is it different from the NBA to the NFL? Is it the collective bargaining power as to why NBA players tend to have more guaranteed money?
Yeah, they've it's just they have guaranteed contracts. So every sport has guaranteed contracts, but the NFL, right? So it's just when you're in the NFL, the money that you get on signing, if like that's your guaranteed money, right? So if you get, let's say like Deshaun Watson, he's 230 guaranteed. Well, he gets a signing bonus and then everything else is guaranteed after that. Well, if it's not guaranteed, you get what you get, and then if they cut you the next year, you don't get more of that money. That money is gone. You know what I'm saying? So that's why a lot of teams, they do that post-June cut because it's called an active roster bonus, right? When you're on a roster, active roster bonus. So sometimes that kicks in. So it could be some teams, it might be 1 million for a player. For some players, it might be 20 to 15 million if they're on the active roster bonus. So you have different things like that. So to me, when it's in the NFL, that's why I never have a player trying to get everything they can, because the next year he can blow his knee out, he can blow his back out.
Right.
And that money is just gone. You know what I'm saying? So get everything you can.
Right.
If you're at the top of the mountain, just try to go for it. So that's my thing.
So the thing is about this is that this is the part, again, this is a cautionary tale. Like you got, it's like the old song, know when to hold them and know when to fold them. The timing of things. Let me just share very quickly with folks. Keena, let's put that quote up on the idea of this timing and preparation. This is what Kelly Lynn, this is what the black woman the dynamic agent of Jalen Hurts, what she said she did.
Nicole.
Oh, Nicole, excuse me. I said Kelly. Nicole, thank you. Let's put the quote up there very quickly, Keenan, before we take our next pause. This is what she said. Take a look at this, folks. She said, this is coming out of USA Today. It's a classic story involving timing, preparation, social media, and hustle. Nicole Lynn sent Jalen Hurts a direct message, a DM on Instagram, making her pitch as he ramped up for the draft process in 2020 after finishing up his college career at Oklahoma. She said, "Hey, have you picked an agent? If not, I'd love to link." She later described her effort to Sports Illustrated as a total Hail Mary. That's how she gotten to be this man's agent. She slid in his DM, Suzette.
Listen, talk about betting on yourself.
Okay.
Listen.
Okay, let's give the whole story. She had already had a top 5 pick 2 years ago. So it's not like she wasn't in, it's not like she.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just still saying like she still put herself out there.
I feel you. But she
you know what I'm saying? And here's the question that I have to ask. It's hard for me to believe if she slid into Jalen Hurts' DM on that. What's the likelihood that she did not slide into Lamar Jackson's DM?
Gosh, here we
go. Come on now.
This boy is a conspiracy theorist.
Why has it got to be a conspiracy theory, bro?
No. I have another question for Scotty, though, with regards to...
Yeah, you better ask Scotty this.
Oh, and I know we have a break, but maybe after we come out after break. But there's been a lot of pushback on social media I've been seeing about how much, quote-unquote, credit she deserves for this. And after the break, I'd love to ask you what you think about that.
Oh,
that's interesting.
I'll tell you.
That's interesting. How much credit does she deserve as an athlete's agent in getting a deal done? All right, we're going to take a quick pause. We got to take a quick pause. Scotty's going to continue to yell at me. Suzette is...
enjoy it all. Yay.
Suzette is going to question my judgment. Folks, stay with us. We got a lot to talk about here on the Culture or the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
All right, folks. Welcome back to the show. I am. Well, let me just share this with you. We're talking about the lessons of betting on yourself. Talking sports. Got my guy Scotty. Got my sister Suzette. This is a picture of Nicole Lynn. This is the agent for Jalen Hurts. That is the sister right there. Nicole right there. Jalen Hurts. This is the agent that helped to broker the NFL historic deal, 255-year, $255 million, $179.3 million guaranteed for the Super Bowl quarterback. With only 2 years as a starter in the league, he has become the highest paid player in NFL history. And with a black woman, and I'm hearing LaShonda, you checked in, LaShonda Gladden, you say his whole management crew are women. Love it, get it, ladies. So apparently Jalen Hurts got a bunch of women around him, and he does have a girlfriend. So he's being supported by a bunch of women on his team to lead him to success.
Binders full of women. Sorry.
What did you say?
I said, like Mitt Romney says, binders full of women. Sorry.
Binders.
No, but I really wanted to ask Scotty because a lot of people, not a lot, I saw, I'm going to read the comments and I want to see, post it on the Shade Room, post it on all these other places, that I saw a few comments that stood out to me that said, this is too much about her. He's the one that put in the hard work. He's the one that, goes hard in the gym and on the field. They're almost putting her front and center. And it's unwarranted. And I thought to myself, I don't know that that's a majority opinion, but I saw it a couple of different places by different, online people. So I wanted to know, maybe Scotty and yourself, what do you think about that? Is Nicole Allen a pivotal part to his obtaining such a lucrative all-time largest ever contract? Or should we be talking more about him, the athlete, and his abilities, talents, and the hard work he's put in? Or is it a combo? I just, since I saw that, I kept thinking, who thinks like this? And I want to know if that's something that's very, common or pervasive.
As an agent, you only can negotiate what your client is worth. 90% goes to Jalen Hurts. 10% is what she does in the background. Now, this is the thing with agents, right? Because I actually have a friend who is he actually is an NFL licensed agent. He says there's a database that you can go and pull everybody's contract up. And they have all the terms and agreements and whatever, and you literally copy and paste, and you add whatever you want to add to make your client. So let's say Farajii is my client. He's a wide receiver. He's top 3, and the last contract was this. Okay, I want to see him go here. So that's how he becomes the highest paid receiver in the league. And that's why that term doesn't mean much, because it really doesn't, because what's coming. Joe Burrow's coming. Justin Herbert is coming. So that's going to last for about 2 months, and then Joe Burrow's contract is about to hit, and then he's the highest paid, because Joe Burrow going to be like, Jalen Hurts shouldn't be getting more than me. I'm taking the Bengals to the Super Bowl. Okay, did you hear me? The Bengals. So, you know what I'm saying?
And look, this is the face Lamar Jackson will have.
You and Lamar.
And this is going to my point, right? This is my point.
No.
The only reason I would tell Lamar Jackson to get an agent is because the NFL is making it harder to do negotiations without an agent. You can't contact teams in the background if you're just a regular person, you're not certified. You can't reach out on behalf of him. because they're making it harder for you not to have an agent. So it just makes sense to have an agent. But if you still want to better yourself by yourself, I mean, listen, if you're making $160 million and your agent gets, I believe, like 4 or 5% of that, dude, just take the just take the damn tax bill. Like, Jesus,
I would love that for 5%. Praise God.
Wait a minute. See, no. I gotta say this because Scotty, this is you and I are thinking the same way, bro. Let me share this with y'all. There's a book that I've been reading called The Laws of Human Nature. It's by Robert Greene. He wrote the book 48 Laws of Power. There's a section in the book called Success Delusion. And in the book, as it talks about the very simple principle, he said that sometimes you can be so successful in one area of your life that you can delude yourself into thinking you're going to be successful in another area of your life without help.
So that's Michael Jordan with baseball. That's real.
That's Michael. Look, we can name 5 people on our hand very quickly. Donald Trump going into being a president. You see what I'm saying? Success delusion. Because you can think, oh my gosh, I'm this guy in this space. If I, for example, said, oh, I know how to do TV and radio. I'm a broadcaster. I can do what Scotty does and be a sports guy. Please, that's any time. I don't know stats. I don't know. I don't know where players coming from college. I don't have that. I'm deluding myself. And we see this in our culture all the time where people think you're great in one area, you can definitely handle it. Oh, you don't even need no help. You don't need no help, no training, no professional development, no nothing. You can just go into there cold.
I think
to a different industry. That's a lie. We got to stop telling them. That's one of the big caveats. That's why I said this lesson on betting on yourself. Stop lying to yourself, thinking that you can do. Oh, Suzette, she's an attorney. All of a sudden, she could be a chef.
Right. I can be everything. Yeah.
I could be anything.
If you have a passion for being a chef, that might be. But that's neither here nor there. My thing, see, Farajii gonna give you like the real philosophers, like.
Oh my God.
Listen, I'm the dude from the street. I pay for it, okay? I pay to get. I'm not. Listen, I'm a thousandaire. I don't touch my oil. I pay people.
Hey, Scotty, you and me are the same dude, then, brother.
Man, listen.
Let me tell you. I'm not the guy. Look, I'm not the guy.
Oh, dude. Hey, bitches.
Hey, look, I will call a plumber, an electrician. I will call. Look, somebody said, well, Farajii, when I had my hair cut low, they were like, do you cut your own hair? Why would I cut my own hair when they're at barbershop?
I pay for.
That's me. That's the guy. So if I'm in a situation and I have to talk to people across the table, boardrooms, I'm bringing my publicist, I'm bringing my lawyer, I'm bringing my manager. I'm not. No,
I agree.
You guys are professionals. You train for this.
Facts. I agree with you on that one. No, I agree. I just listen because women be trying to like you. If you're not a man, I'm like, I ain't a man.
That's okay if y'all got to call up to help. That's okay. That's all right. That's all right.
AAA. I ain't changing the side.
You have other strengths. Praise God. You have other strengths.
No. Here's the thing about being a man, Suzette. The man knows his limitations.
And that's all right. That's
and
good.
his weaknesses. He knows what he can do and what he can't do. I'm not that guy.
Listen, as long as it get done.
I'm not that guy. I don't know how to build homes. I don't know how to install pipes and all of. Well, why don't you know how to do that, baby?
No,
you don't know how to
an expert at everything. That's
you preaching. No, you preaching past the collection play because I know this is betting on yourself, but as men, okay, men bet on yourself, okay. If you know, you can't do what you because women be like, oh, I need a man too. Well, I ain't that guy.
You gotta be honest. Not to say you can't evolve.
Listen,
and this is not to say you can't evolve or you can't learn the new skills. I'm just saying where I'm standing at this current moment as we're having this conversation, I'm not your guy.
Come on, man. But take me.
Knowing is half the battle. When you need help. You need help. This is
all right. Look, We got a couple of moments left, but I want to, Scotty and Suzette, where does this take this? Suzette, if a black woman, I don't care if it's, Scotty said 10%, the sister is now in the spotlight for making things happen.
Oh, yes. I can't
So where do we go with this?
Yeah, no, I think she's going to continue to be a superstar agent. I wonder again, now I think, could any agent have done this? I don't know if that's true.
That is true.
You think so?
That is absolutely true.
Well, again, I'll let your expertise speak to that. I'd have to kind of research more.
Let me ask you this, right? Like in certain situations as a lawyer, right? There's certain things that you just like, I do like trial. Some trial attorneys will be like, yo, you if you need a trial attorney, like I'm your guy, right? A specialty. But when you're in the NFL agent, all you're trying to do is find the best athlete and hope that they pan out to what you think they're going to be. So when that time comes for them to, because what she's doing, she's invested in him, right? When he was going for rookie training, she paid for that. When he was going to for his NFL draft and all that stuff, she pays for everything. So she's investing in him. So,
but is that bad though?
No. All I'm asking is whether it's an art. So back to my trial lawyer friends, including myself, when I look at negotiation and how things come out when it comes to big dollar cases, everybody's not created equal. Right. They might be same amount of years of practice, et cetera, and say they're just as good. But I know there are people that will get you, the 5-figure to 6-figure versus a 7-figure. So I'm just wondering if there are agents that demonstrate different levels of capabilities. And if she therefore has now set herself apart, or you're saying this is common among agents and that they have basically the same amount of capability because of, I guess you're saying the open share of all information of all contracts. And it doesn't seem like there's kind of this, a gray area where there's some art and there's some finesse and there's some,
I think the art and the finesse that you're speaking of is knowing ownership and knowing general manager
relationships. Okay.
The relationships of that stuff of how hey, these people are pretty harsh negotiators. They won't go over this. So, just knowing who you're dealing with, because Lamar wouldn't know that, right? Because never been in all those rooms. He's never talked to all 32 GMs. You know what I'm saying? So even if the Ravens wanted to pay him, he don't know how to talk to the GM for the Chargers. You don't know how to talk to the GM from the Commanders. He doesn't know the art of that. So yes, those attributes help you when you get an agent because they understand those landscapes. But I know certain agents, I'm a Cowboys fan, so I know certain agents have relationships with the Joneses. They're like, hey, I got a guy, I think you should give him an opportunity because they okay, you bring us this and da. So it can be that, but just the basics of the contract, absolutely not. But I think the only thing that she did, and I know Jalen's probably happy, is the no trade clause. He has a no trade clause in his contract, and the Eagles have never done that. In any Donovan McNabb, LaShawn McCoy, Deshaun Jackson, all their star player, Brian Westbrook, none of them have ever had a no trade clause. He's the first one. So
that's amazing. That's amazing. Scotty, it's always a pleasure.
Yes.
Always.
It's always a pleasure. I love
See you soon, Scotty.
I thank you, man. Thank you for checking in. Folks, make sure y'all can check out Scotty. Scotty, where can they find you, bro?
Always, you can catch me on YouTube, Off Script TV. Mr. Damon in the chat, he already knows where you can find me. And just come out, check out. We're talking about HBCU sports and all other sports as well.
Man, Scotty's one of the sharpest dudes. I'm telling you, he's one of the sharpest dudes in the industry to talk about sports, freshest voices out there. And I'm always happy that he joins us here on The Culture, here on the Black Star Network. Thank you, Scotty. Appreciate you.
Man. Y'all take it easy.
See you soon.
All right. Hey, Suzette, my guy, Real Brooklyn said, as a man, I know my limitations. Let's just say it'll be the best 2 minutes of her life.
Lord, have mercy. Have mercy, Lord. Have mercy.
Speaking of which, Real Brooklyn, yo.
That might be TMI, Real Brooklyn. That might be
Real
TMI.
Brooklyn, best 2 minutes of her life.
Oh boy.
Under promise, over deliver. Speaking of which, we got to talk about the lawsuit against the Freaknik documentary. Stay tuned. That conversation is up next because we got a lawyer. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind $100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to the show. Let me bring my sister Suzette Speaks in for our final conversation.
It's a lot going on in the chat. It's a lot going on here. Listen, I don't know what. I can't hardly keep up today. What in the world?
Oh, boy.
No comment.
Y'all are wild right now. Y'all are all over the place. Y'all are all over the place. All right, very quickly, I want to share and talk about this lawsuit against the Freaknik documentary. We got a lawyer on the panel, y'all. She a lawyer. And she don't just play one on TV. She's a real one.
Aunties and uncles worried right now. If you was in Atlanta, 94, 95, 96, you real.
I don't understand that. No, check this out. Now they come out, they're saying that Freaknik documentary won't come out until next year.
Yeah.
2024. And people are already sweating in 2023. What did y'all do at Freaknik?
I'm so glad I was too young to be at Freaknik.
I'm telling you. All right. Let me just say this very quickly. A group of black women professionals, take a look at this, folks, because this is the situation is that there's this lawsuit against Freaknik, and some black women are saying they do not want to have this documentary put out. Take a look at this. This is coming from Black Enterprise, a group of black women professionals comprised of one politician, 3 high-level corporate executives, and one judge have lawyered up and are threatening to sue Hulu in hopes of stopping the documentary's release, according to News One. One woman, a married mother of 3 who makes over $1 million annually, believes the documentary shows her in an unflattering light. And there are already videos circulating online she doesn't want her children to see. Dang. Is that the one? Is that her?
I don't want to make light of it because listen,
no. We must make light of this.
This was a wild time. This was a different time.
Suzette, you gotta break this down to me, sis. You gotta help me with this.
No, well, what happens is, people's images are being utilized 25 years past an event that they didn't even realize they were being, recorded or that it would be used in an actual documentary later on. So you have people who, again, in their early 20s, late teens, even young adulthood from around HBCUs and other colleges that went to Atlanta for, this kind of very wild spring break experience. Again, predominantly Black people that were participating. And here we are, 20 some years later, and there are images of you from when you were, a young person, juking and slipping and sliding. And it is really worrisome for many. And, you know, people have careers now. 20 years later, we thought, oh, wait, no one had cell phones back then. We're good, right?
Wait a minute. Time out. This is crazy because I like how people say, well, damn, there wasn't no cameras. Let me tell you, I remember the 90s had cameras, y'all. When did the 90s not have cameras? But when did people remember them old school joints that we did y'all not see that?
The heavy
what did you think that video was doing? You was like, girl, he put the little VHS joint right in there, put that joint, he walking around. What?
Ooh,
you like, girl, ain't nobody gonna see this.
And the footage survived.
And the footage, what do you think was gonna happen to the footage?
I don't think they could have predicted they was going
to come on. But see, here's the thing. The fact that you want to stop the documentary, again, folks, we got to accept the fact that this is part of our culture. This is part of our history. It is what it is, right? And if you're afraid that you are going to be seen in some unflattering light, that you don't want your children, like you, first and foremost, have a conversation with your children now. That's called damage control. That's called preventive damage control. Hey, you sit the little ones down, especially the daughters. Hey, Aaliyah,
Farajii.
You might see some things that Mama and Auntie did.
You can't just use my image, Farajii. You can't just use my image, though. That's the thing. You can't use my image.
Why? Is this up for? And that's what I'm saying. From a legal perspective, is it some sort of violation of law?
Well, yeah. Well, that's what they're going to
do in a documentary. This is for document. This is not like a movie. This is a documentary.
But
this
they
is
did not
different type of format.
But I hear what you're saying. But the argument that's going to be made, and I don't know which way it'll go if it actually makes it to court. But they're going to argue that it is utilizing their image without their permission. That they did not allow for, this producer, of course, is Luther Campbell. Uncle Luke is producing this film. And it's going to come down to like fair use doctrine, whether this is something that was, again, in the public domain for a certain amount of time. And it has been substantially altered enough to be utilized in this type of way. But I'm not sure if that will hold water, because there are going to be people that say, that's me, that's my picture. I didn't sign a release. I didn't tell them that they can make money off of or commercially use my picture or my video. It wasn't on the little ticket that was printed. And
I would agree with that. But I love watching documentaries. I watch all types of documentaries. It is absolutely damn near impossible for a filmmaker to go through each frame and say, hey, we need to identify this person. We need to send out a waiver for this person. We need to send out, you know what I'm saying? Like, is
but
that
these
even realistic?
people are identifiable. These specific plaintiffs saw or have word that they are in these films. So for these 5, they have been identified, and they don't want their images utilized without their permission.
So do you think they got a case? It sounds like you think they might actually have a case.
It could be. Like I haven't seen any of the actual material. How much? What is it? What are they doing? And would they have had a reasonable presumption that this might be distributed later? All of those things are kind of what the facts will hinge on. But I wouldn't say that they don't have a case, because again, they are identifiable within these images. So they're saying, that's me, and I didn't give you permission to use anything that, my likeness, my voice, anything in your documentary. So I do think there might be some grounds.
Hey, look, my question is, what were you doing to make you so afraid? Conscious thought, you checked in and said, it all depends on what angle they are viewed from.
Now, guys.
Again, Freaknik was over 25 years ago. They don't even look the same.
But especially if it's a politician, especially they said that one, they're well-known people now. They have
in their community, but
somebody gonna know. The Black community is very small.
All right, y'all remember the whole Girls Gone Wild videos? You remember that, Suzette?
I do. People got caught up in that too. People got caught up in that. Their home lives were wrecked and lost jobs and all kinds of stuff. That stuff lives on forever. Once it's out, it lives on forever.
Hey, and maybe that could be the lesson that you teach.
But I think they may have signed something. I'm not sure if Girls Gone Wild was like signed releases. I'm not sure 100%. But by that time they were doing it.
It's hard. Like I said, I'm going back to that premise that very quickly as we close out. That if you're at a community or citywide function, and then everybody is taking cameras, I just don't think they have the strongest case. I get it. They don't want to be seen in an unflattering light. But 30 years ago, were you thinking about that? You know what I'm saying? And if you are seen in an unflattering light, you can't say that's not me, or just accept the fact that you were there. It's hard, but you got to accept the fact that you were there. I mean,
people gonna want to protect their image. I don't know. I hear what you're saying, and I get it. Kind of mentally assent to where you are. But then I'm gonna say that I don't think they feel that way at all, because they want to make sure, the people who they establish themselves to be now, that was in their youth. They didn't anticipate it being in a whole documentary. I mean, now when you go to certain performances, you'll see it in the small print at like a concert or something. They say, your image might be taken and maybe utilized in future.
And you know what? And guess what? And you know it, and I know, when we go to any place that's an open situation, public situation where those cameras are present, your presence is saying, yes, I consent to using my image. There's no, you don't go to no concert and be like, no, don't use my image.
I have had, funny enough, I have had people when I'm having women's conferences, etc., and I put their pictures on my website, and they've asked me to take it down.
At a women's conference?
Yeah. I took it down. Like, sis, it's not that serious, but
it's not that deep. It's really not that deep.
But they have said to me they don't want their image on this, or if I use it on a promotional flyer. So most people are happy, but there are people that are, nope, I don't want you to utilize my image, and I respectfully say okay, and I take
all
it
right. That's fine. So,
but this one again, they must be doing something very entertaining, because I was like, why won't the producer just take out their parts and keep it moving? But maybe
you don't know what the producer
about these specific women. I don't know.
And from a filmmaker's perspective, you don't know what the producer is going to use. You don't know how the situation. You don't know what Hulu's going to say. And guess what? You might be making, and there's always a final cut. So what might be put in the trailer may not actually end up in the final cut of the project. It's still a year out. You don't know.
They say there's stuff that's leaking already.
That's leaking already.
In there.
Hey, man, if some stuff got leaked to me, first you got to take the Shaggy approach.
You know what, Farajii? I'm telling you. People
It wasn't me.
They lied.
Auntie, that looks like you. It wasn't me.
They have changed their lives. They're respectable women.
Look, and check this out. Hey, look, all jokes aside, what better way to talk about the power of redemption than to be like, hey, this was what I used to be. This is what I used to do. But look at me now. Everybody got the power to redeem themselves.
It was summer of 97. It was
97, 94.
They didn't know what was going to be their future at that point. They were not thinking about that. They were on
93.
Having,
hey, look, everybody that showed up at Woodstock.
But not everything was caught on film. Not everything was caught on film, and it was really crazy. So I don't know. We'll see what happens.
All right, we're going to see. Suzette Speaks, my sister, thank you so much.
Always a pleasure. Thank you.
I always appreciate you. I always enjoy my Wednesdays with you, hanging out with you a little bit, talking about stuff. How can people check you out and all the great work you're doing, Suzette?
Come check me out on my channel. I'll be talking a little bit about femininity, Black men, and mentorship tomorrow. I might switch my topic today and talk about more about Ralph Yarl, etc. But come over to my YouTube channel, please. Look up Suzette Speaks. Hit the subscribe button and show some love. I appreciate you all. Shout out to all the culture crew. Always having a great conversation here on Wednesdays. I really talking, but thank you.
I appreciate you. I appreciate you, Suzette. Thank you so much for joining us here on The Culture.
See you next week.
As always. All right, folks, that's going to do it for us. Make sure you continue to show your support for us here at the Black Star Network. Go to our website today, blackstarnetwork.com, and download the app. And most importantly, make sure that you offer your finances as we continue to fuel a movement, a digital platform like no other. So go to Black Star Network, follow us on social media as well. Also, check me out on social media at The Real Farajii on Instagram and Farajii on Twitter. We'd love to connect with you. And of course, continue to show up for us each and every day. Thank you for all of the new watchers of today's show. And thank you for my day ones, Culture Crew members. I truly, truly appreciate y'all so much, so much, so much. All right, stay tuned. Up next is Roland Martin Unfiltered. As always, never be afraid to challenge what's wrong. Stand for what's right while being yourself in the process. God willing, we'll chat tomorrow for another exciting set of conversations right here on The Culture, right here on the Black Star Network. Peace.